SLT speed up සවාරිය සමගින් සද්දන්ත වාසි රැල්ලක්. අලුත් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සබඳතා සඳහා පළමු මාස දෙක පුරා data double speed up with SLT.
Making headlines on First at 9. Another university students protest. Riot police used tear gas and water cannons to quell the demonstrations of students. Memories of a troubled past. Calls of Northern Chief Minister to remove war memorials draw criticisms.
Asking or attempting to remove them is something which will bring disrepute for the country.
In a way, you can call these memorials of a humanitarian operation. So why do you want to remove them?
Uncertainty over provincial elections. Leader of the Jatika Helurumaya prefers provincial council elections to be held in December. Fast track. New permanent High Court at Bar set up to expedite cases of fraud and corruption unveiled at Housdorf. Turnbull in turbulence. Australia's Prime Minister survives a leadership challenge from the Minister of Home Affairs. A very good evening to you and welcome to First at 9 on Derana 24/7 Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to your top story tonight. Riot police fired tear gas and water cannons on 2 occasions today to disperse a protest organised by the Student Action Committee of South Eastern University and the Inter-University Students' Federation. During the protest, measures were taken by police to quell the surge. Convener of the Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation, Venerable Tampitiya Sugatananda Thera, and 4 other university students sustained injuries.
A protest was worked off in Colombo today against the decision taken by the Southeastern University to terminate studentship and suspend classes of some students attached to the Faculty of Technology. Organised by the Student Action Committee of Southeastern University and the Inter-University Students' Federation, the protest commenced with a march at the University of Visual and Performing Arts this afternoon. Before the commencement of the protest, police obtained a court order preventing protesters from entering government offices as well as disrupting traffic and the public. Police produced the court order to the protesters once the march reached the Lipton roundabout. Meanwhile, students attempted to enter Ward Place where the Ministry of Higher Education is located. Riot police, however, had already set up barricades to prevent protesters from entering Ward Place. It was then that protesters forcefully attempted to enter the road by toppling barricades. These actions by the protesters prompted a response from riot police as they attempted to bring the situation under control by using tear gas and water cannons. Other Derana witnessed how several of these tear gas canisters fell on nearby vehicles at Lipton roundabout. As the riot police attempted to quell the surge, convener of Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation, Venerable Tampitiya Sugatananda Thera, sustained injuries and students were seen taking the Thera to the hospital. University students continued their protest following the first phase of action taken by the police, and it was then that riot police used water cannons on them for a second time. Other Derana reporters on the ground confirmed that students dispersed from the scene at around 6 p.m. Officials of the National Hospital meanwhile said that 4 students were briefly treated at its outpatient department today.
President Maithripala met the visiting Japanese Minister of Defense Itsunori Onodera this morning. The head of state met the visiting minister at the Presidential Secretariat, and the Japanese Defense Minister's visit marks the first of its kind in Sri Lanka. In the meantime, Professor Most Venerable Kutapitiya Rahulathera had a message for the President when the head of state attended a religious function held in Kalutara yesterday. President Maithripala Sirisena paid obeisance to Chief Incumbent of the Dediyavala Sri Dhammarama Temple, Chief of Sangha of Bentara Vihara Sector, retired senior lecturer Venerable Dediyavala Tilakasiritera, who was appointed as the Anunayaka of Kote Sri Kalyani Samagri Dharma Mahasangha Sabha.
Respected head of state, former President J.R. Jayawardena pardoned Gonavala Sunil, who was a leader of the underworld and made him a justice of peace. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa pardoned SP Disanayaka pertaining to the past. You pardoned a terrorist who came to destroy you, Shivaraja. I won't say anything further. You must understand what I'm trying to bring up here.
In the meantime, President Maithripala Sirisena met with the visiting Japanese Minister of Defense Itsunori Onodera this morning at the Presidential Secretariat. Onodera becomes the first Japanese Minister of Defense to visit Sri Lanka. The sentiments of Chief Minister of the Northern Province C.V. Vigneshwaran to pull war memorials from the north has given rise to a wider debate exploring their grounds of existence. While some support the Northern Chief Minister's views on the matter, others are highly critical of the thought of removing the memorial from the north. While expressing his views on the subject, convener of the Patriotic Professionals Forum, Dr. Nalaka Godheva, insists the structures called into question are in fact not war memorials at all.
We do not want war memorials. Do you remember forces fighting against the JVP when they engaged in a riot? Are there any memorials to remember those? I accept the stance of Vigneshwaran. That's right. I believe that brothers in the armed forces accept what I say to be true because they didn't fight against another country but to stop a riot in this country.
So in a way, you can call these memorials of a humanitarian operation. So why do you want to remove that? On the other hand, if these memorials are removed, what will happen as a result? It will create so much issues in the south as well, because more than 27,000 soldiers died during the last phases of this war. Now today, if you go and remove these memorials, what will happen to their relatives? How much hatred will be created as a result? I think Mr. Vigneshwaran should not talk about these things. I think Mr. Manav Ganeshan should not be encouraging Mr. Vigneshwaran to say these things, because there are bigger problems that these Tamil politicians must solve. The northern Tamil people are today suffering from economic problems. I'm sure Tamil people do not appreciate these things. They want the politicians to stop this nonsense and work towards achieving the promises that were given to the Tamil people.
I don't think that is right, because the monuments have been erected as a mark of respect for those who laid down their lives for the sake of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the motherland. Asking or attempting to remove them is something which will bring disrepute for the country, disrepute for the people who are recommending or suggesting that, and also that will indirectly insult the people who made the supreme sacrifice in the process of carrying out their duty towards the motherland. So I don't think his request is reasonable, and it should not be accepted by others.
If any one of us can say that the war memorials should be removed or demolished or taken off, he as an individual, I must say, is an ungrateful person. Especially in the case of the Northern Chief Minister, he never felt what the people of this country went through due to terrorism. So he may not be in a position to value what was contributed by the war heroes. So I condemn Mr. Vigneshwaran. You don't have the right to say what you have said about the war heroes and their monuments. My dear friend Mano Ganeshan is for reconciliation. How can we promote reconciliation when we are not in a position to recognize those who have brought about peace to this country?
It's because of sacrifices made by the security forces in the country that Vigneswaran could be the Chief Minister. War memorials are built everywhere and they do not pose a threat to the Tamil people or their identity. War heroes don't represent only the Sinhalese but all the peaceful citizens. Tamil Selvan didn't let the TNA do politics. That's the truth.
Minister of Megapolis and Western Development, Partly Champika Ranawaka, is of the view that the Provincial Council election should be held across all 9 provinces on the same day this year. The leader of the Jathika Helurumaya spoke on provincial polls at a media briefing held in Colombo this morning.
We propose that all provincial council elections be held this December. The Special Delimitation Committee has outlined 222 wards and the report was presented in Parliament. It is due to be discussed next Friday in Parliament and if it passes, the Election Commission can hold the elections accordingly. However, political parties have different views. Some say the provincial council election should be held according to the preferential system, while another says that required amendments should be made to the present system before moving for polls. The third group suggests that the looming election be held under the previous system and to introduce a new system for future polls thereafter. We will ask the President to hold a party leaders meeting and decide on how and when to hold elections. We will ask him to hold elections in all 9 provinces together, or at least to hold elections in 6 provinces at the same time, since Western, Southern and Uva provincial councils have their terms until next year.
Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources and Disaster Management, Duminda Dissanayake, is insistent that main political parties should shed any personal concerns on how the new electoral system would affect them. Instead, the minister is adamant that the focus should be on how they are making a change. Minister Dissanayake expressed these views at a media briefing held today.
Many had unfavourable views on holding elections under a preferential system, which is why we decided to hold the last election under a mixed electoral system. When we hold elections this time, main political parties have the responsibility to not think about how elections will impact them personally, but to start making changes after numerous discussions were held. With the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, neither Mahinda Rajapaksa nor Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga can contest in the presidential election. Why did Mahinda Rajapaksa make this announcement? It is because there are several names which are mentioned from the SLPP as presidential candidates. There's competition between Basil Rajapaksa and Gotabaya Rajapaksa, which created a division. Therefore, Mahinda Rajapaksa strategically decided to announce that he will run for presidency to bring all of them together. They do not have an ethical right to do so. I saw Dilan Pereira saying that he is planning to participate in the protest. Dayasiri Jayasekara is actively participating in its restructure. However, there are some who attend meetings but no action. Therefore, in cases like these, we will have to take firm decisions. Dilan Pereira once said that he was responsible for creating issues between the President and the Prime Minister. Since they admit to this, we have to be careful now.
Former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga calls on organisations for women to issues to support Sri Lankan women to take up leadership positions in the government and in politics. Addressing the inaugural ceremony of the 29th Area Conference of the Associated Country Women of the World, the former president also touched on the sentiment that corruption potentially being less with more women politicians in the government. She emphasised that she did not agree with the particular sentiment as corruption does not recognise gender and that it is a pressing issue which lies within the system.
The women of Sri Lanka, they are equal with their male counterparts. They have liberated themselves to the point of the country having university graduates, more women than men. Public service is slowly but surely getting filled up with the women. And I was also told that in the modern field of information technology, that there are many more qualified women in Sri Lanka than men. So we seem to be quietly taking over, but we still have a glass ceiling where political positions are concerned in this country. Sri Lanka, having produced the world's first woman prime minister, has only about 3% of members of parliament who are women. It is the men who do not want to give nominations to the women. Now the work of organizations like the LMS and the ACWW, I'm sure, is now to help women to take up positions of leadership in the governance structures of the country.
Former President Bandaranaike also touched on the possibility of corruption being less under women politicians.
I hope not fallaciously that if women take over the leadership of public bodies, there will be less corruption. Do you agree? I don't know. The corruption has reached every level of our society. I don't think it's the male or female genes, it's the system. Until the system is radically changed and revolutionized in a positive and constructive manner for good governance, whoever who comes there, it may be the same.
The joint opposition alleges that the Speaker failed in his duty by letting the parliamentary debate on the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement to go ahead despite Sinhala and Tamil translations of the FTA not being available. Parliamentarian Bandhu Gunawardena made the remarks while addressing a media briefing today.
The Constitution clearly states that documentation written in English should be translated into Sinhala and Tamil. Furthermore, it should be legalized. This agreement goes against this criterion. It is not only the fact that this free trade agreement has been drafted in English, but the Speaker is responsible for sacrificing the young generation by ignoring this. The Bond Commission report was debated in Parliament. During the debate, MP Sumandiran informed the Speaker that there is no report in Tamil and requested that the debate be immediately stopped, which the Speaker did. Since that day, there has been no debate on this. When this free trade agreement was debated in Parliament, the Speaker had the opportunity to immediately stop the debate because there was no translation. Therefore, the Speaker has not fulfilled his responsibility.
Singapore Sri Lanka නිදහස් වෙනද කිවිසුම අත්සන් කරනකොට සිංහල පරිවර්තනය යන්නේ.
Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Academic at the General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, Professor Jayanta Aryaratne, today revealed a breakthrough by researchers in identifying causes behind unique and widespread kidney diseases in Sri Lanka. The professor heralded the breakthrough today at a media briefing held at the university premises on the International Research Conference set to be conducted next month. The International Research Conference will be held for the 11th consecutive year on the 13th and 14th of September. Organised by the General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, this year's conference will bear the theme Securing Professional Excellence Through Collaboration.
We have about 15 foreign and local eminent personalities participating in variety of disciplines, delivering their plenary speeches. This year we have received around 375 papers which are going to be presented both orally and by the way of poster presentations.
මේනොට පරීක්ෂණ මාත්‍රේ වක්කඩ රෝග සම්බන්ධයෙන් යනවා කියලා. දැන් මේනොට පරීක්ෂණ වල මොන තත්ත්වෙ තියෙන්නේ? චෝදනාවක් තියෙනවා ග්ලයිෆෝසේට් කියලා ඒ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නකුත් තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේ මොකක්ද හොයාගෙන තියෙනවා? ඇත්තටම මේ ෆෝරම් එකකදී වැනි ප්‍රකාශයක් කිරීමකට නම් මම කැමති නැහැ.
I don't think this is the right forum to discuss the matter, but we have clearly found the right direction now. We have come to a path which enables the identification of etiologic agents which cause the disease. We know that certain fertilizers, chemicals and metals cause the disease. It's enough to have arrived on the correct track because we can make our way to the very end now. We have also confirmed that kidney diseases are triggered by multiple factors and not just one. These are very dangerous reasons.
Minister of Justice and Prison Reforms Thaltathu Korala declared open the new permanent High Court at Bar established to expedite cases of fraud and corruption at Halfstorf today. Accordingly, the first case will be taken up in courts on the 24th of August.
The government decided to establish 3 special high courts to hear cases pertaining to money laundering, bribery, large financial crimes, dishonest misappropriation of property and criminal breach of trust by public servants on a daily basis. Therefore, measures were taken to make certain amendments to the Judicature Bill. Accordingly, the first permanent High Court at Bar was officially declared open today at the Halsdorf Court Complex in Colombo by Minister of Justice and Prison Reforms Thalata Atukorala. The court had already started hearing new cases and it commenced on the 15th of July.
One thing we promised on the 8th of January 2015 is that we will take action against the misuse of state funds. It took some time. We are establishing controls in prisons. We have received information that narcotics is brought from outside to the prison cells of female inmates. We had to take certain measures to mitigate the situation. The court will decide as to when to grant them bail. Measures will be taken to transfer female prisoners in the future as well. We will continue this process and we will not change it under any influence. If they continue to do this in the prison, we will continue to make the transfers. 52 inmates who are responsible for the situation has already been transferred. Measures were taken to transfer 52 inmates who gave leadership to the situation.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back to the news. Inflation increased to 3.4% in July this year from 2.5% in June on year-on-year basis. Issuing a communique today, the central bank said that inflation in July was mainly driven by low base that prevailed in the previous year, as well as the monthly increase in the prices of items in the non-food category. Meanwhile, the NCPI core inflation increased to 2.3% in July from 1.8% in June this year on year-on-year basis. Meanwhile, annual average core inflation declined to 2.7% in July 2018 from 2.9% in June. Sri Lankan shares extended losses into an 8th session today and posted their lowest close in nearly 17 months as foreign investors continued to sell, while a report about new tax proposals weighed in on the market as well. The All-Share Price Index edged down 0.06% to 6,040.37, its lowest close since 30th of March 2017. We now have Amanda Lokogamide from First Capital Holdings on the other side with a detailed report.
All-Share Price Index witnessed a volatile movement throughout the day, reaching an intraday high of 6,049 and closed for the day at 6,040, losing 4 points. Turnover improved compared to the previous day, however, volumes dipped, recording a one-week low. A net foreign outflow was witnessed for the 5th consecutive day amidst high foreign participation. On the crossings board, 100,000 shares of Sampath changed hands at ₹276.50 in a single trade.
Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies around the world. Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull appeals for unity after surviving a challenge to his leadership from Minister of Home Affairs Peter Dutton. Turnbull had called today's surprise vote himself in a bid to resolve speculation that his leadership was under threat.
Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull survived a leadership challenge by Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton today, but the narrow margin of his win did little to dampen speculation about his future. Turnbull defeated Dutton 48-35 in the party room vote for the leadership of the Liberal Party, the senior party in the centre-right government coalition. The vote came after a sharp fall in opinion poll ratings and talk of an imminent challenge, which in turn has raised the possibility of an early election. Seeking to safeguard his leadership, Turnbull called on his party to come back or risk losing the next election.
I don't bear any grudge against Peter Dutton for having stood up and challenged me today, and I invited him, in fact, to continue in his position. There are always differences in political parties, of course, but it's important that we put differences behind us and get on with our job of looking after the 25 million Australians who have put us here. That is our job.
Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad is critical of Western countries such as the United States for trending towards protectionism. During an interview with China Central Television in Beijing on Sunday, the Malaysian Premier accused Western powers of not wanting to uphold the concept of globalization.
Globalization was proposed by the countries of the West because they saw that in globalization they would have access to the other countries of the world. But now globalization has also meant opening up their market to goods coming from these other countries, which they expect just to be a market. This market is now the center of production, the factory of the world, and they are producing things for American market and European market. So when they proposed the idea of globalization, it was to benefit them. But now they find that globalization is benefiting other countries, especially countries in the East. So they now do not like the idea. It was their idea in the first place, but now they do not like the idea. They resort to protectionism. That is what America is doing. Simply because America just cannot compete with China and other countries in the East.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Sri Lanka missed the chance to advance into medal-winning positions across several sports at the Asian Games being worked off in Jakarta today. The island nation had a chance to advance to the final in 50-meter freestyle swimming, women's kabaddi and weightlifting, but could not.
The last chance Sri Lanka had to move into the semi-finals of women's kabaddi was vanquished today by India at the Asian Games worked off in Jakarta. Sri Lanka had been banking on the women's kabaddi team. The last chance Sri Lanka had to move into the semi-finals of women's kabaddi was vanquished today by India at the Asian Games worked off in Jakarta. Sri Lanka had been banking on the women's kabaddi team to bring home a medal, but such hopes were lost following their 38-12 loss at the hands of India. With the defeat, much talk has sprung up over the team's permanent captain travelling for the Games despite being injured. In the meantime, both Matthew Abesinghe and Kyle Abesinghe could not qualify for the final of the 50-meter freestyle event following their heats this morning. Another medal hopeful, weightlifter Tilanka Palangasinghe, also could not replicate the feats the Sri Lankan weightlifting team achieved during the Commonwealth Games, as he couldn't complete the men's 62 kilogram event.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Derana 24/7.
A very good evening everyone and welcome to Forecast First. It's going to be a sweltering day in the eastern province tomorrow with temperatures in the region of mid-30s expected across the province. It will be a scorcher in Batticaloa in particular, as temperatures are set to hit as high as 36 degrees Celsius, ideal for those making use of the school holidays. Those who are in the central province, as usual, won't have to worry about applying sunscreen. Temperatures in the hills will be rather mild and may dip as low as 19 degrees Celsius. That dip in temperature is partly owing to the rain set to hit the central province along with western and southern provinces tomorrow. As for the top half of the country, sunny weather can be expected except for Vaunia and Trincomalee. That's all that we have from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
Music stars gathered at New York's Radio City Hall on Monday for the MTV Video Music Awards. Camila Cabello took the night's biggest honors, winning the Artist of the Year, Video of the Year and winning Moon Man Trophy for Artist of the Year and Video of the Year. Cardi B had the most nominations with 10 nods. With that, we are bringing you a complete look at the evening.
The stars were out in force for the 2018 MTV Video Music Awards held at Radio City Music Hall in New York last evening, attracting the attention of millions of youth. Camila Cabello won the accolade of being the Artist of the Year while also grabbing the award for the Video of the Year for Havana.
My hands are literally shaking. I am never going to forget this moment ever in my life.
The award for the Best Direction went to Childish Gambino for This Is America. He also clinched the Best Choreography award for the same production. The award for Best Visual Effects went to Kendrick Lamar featuring SZA for All the Stars, while Cardi B won the award for Best New Artist.
Months ago, a lot of people were saying, you know, you gambling your career, you're about to have a baby, what are you doing? And you know, I had a baby, I carried the baby, and now I'm still winning awards.
Rockstar featuring 21 Savage by Post Malone won the award for Song of the Year, and Jennifer Lopez went home with the Michael Jackson Vanguard Award.
Well, that's all we have from Other Derana First at 9 for tonight. But before we go, we'd like to take you to the red carpet of the MTV Video Music Awards, which was lit by the glaze of the stars which attended the event. We hope you enjoy the visuals and have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.